On this episode of Captain's Tales, we're angling from the flats of the Florida Keys to the Gulf Stream currents off Palm Beach, Florida.
Nicer one.
It is a nice one. Nice grab. Mm-hmm. Nice grab, Chris.
All right, there she is.
My bait was all the way on the bottom there. I mean, literally a foot off the bottom, and the sailfish ate him. Good fight. That fish was a really good fighter.
Throughout maritime history, there have been experts on the water who knew how to navigate and locate their bounty. These individuals held the secrets to where, when, and how. This still holds true today. Get ready for an angling experience filled with sea secrets, fantastic fishing, and great destinations. For on this show, it's only the captain and the camera. Our first captain is Robert Collins, and he's taking us onto the shallow flats of the Florida Keys in search of the gray ghost, the Florida bonefish.
Lobster trap. Just sitting right on top of it. Good. They look like pretty good fish. Slide out. I let them eat it a long time too. Whoa!
Captain Robert was a high-demand backcountry and offshore guide who no longer charters, but has turned his attention to tournament angling. Among his many impressive wins, he holds the distinction of winning the IGFA Inshore and Offshore Championship in the same year.
When I dropped the shrimp over, I could still see them milling around in the hole as we were drifting over, and I just let it go all the way to the bottom. On the way down. Ready? Nice little fish, about 4 pounds. For spin fishing for the bonefish, I prefer a 7.5 foot medium action graphite rod, Shimano 4000. We spool it up with 10-pound braid and attach about 2.5 feet of 20-pound fluorocarbon with a double uni knot. And we use a Gamakatsu worm hook if we're fishing with a live shrimp, in a 2-0 or a 3-0, depending on the size of the shrimp. Look at them right here. Thinks he's a bonefish.
Take up.
You wanted shrimp. Hold the rod up high to keep the line out of the grass. Drilling away, you give it a couple bumps and then you get the rod as high as you can hold it. Keep the line angle out of the grass. That fish running 30 miles an hour through grass, it will put enough pressure on it to pull the hook, it'll break the line, all kinds of things. So you want to hold it up as high as you can. For that full run, it'll be 100 yards, 150 yards. And typically then they'll turn around and they'll race back at you. Then you got to really catch up to them, and that's pretty much their show.
About a 12-pounder. Nothing good about that.
It's half of a 12-pounder. Such is the way of the wild.
Our next captain is Will Geraghty, an offshore captain whose passion for the sea and fishing keeps him busy with charters and tournaments year-round. Captain Will tries his hand at the fly rod on some schooling kingfish. Offshore fly fishing is a nice change-up from terminal tackle and can be very sporting. Tricking a fish with feathers and artificial materials, tied and created by yourself, is the ultimate in angling, no matter what the quarry.
All the way up to the leader already. Small kingfish. God, they're fun on the fly. They are awesome on the fly rod, no matter what size they are. Wow, did he inhale that? Look at that. Nice chunky fly. Fun nearshore fish. A little harder to land on the long stick here, especially if they're not worn out. There she goes. Got to check our leader here. Looks a little scuffed up. Nice thing about that knottable wire is that you could get a couple fish out of each rig. You know, fighting these fish, you always want to keep that rod tip real high. When they run like that, sometimes they can tail whip you. If the fish has some size to them, you can eliminate a lot of tail whips, meaning the tail will catch your leader line and separate it, break it. Keep that rod tip up. That'll avoid that. That'll avoid heartbreak if you have a real nice one on, in a 30-pound, 40-pound class. You want to fish these kingfish with a fairly light drag. You want to keep that drag consistent through the fight if you can. Go with a nice little tail grab. I'll bring them right to you.
All right. Nicer one.
It is a nice one. I'll guide him this way. Put too much pressure on him.
Going after the chum bag.
They sure do look pretty in the water. All right, just about done.
Oh yeah.
Some famous last words. Nice grab. Nice grab, Chris.
All right, there she is. Much nicer fish.
Yeah, it is a nicer fish. That hit the short bait, like a couple yards behind the boat. Wow, look at that.
Now look at the teeth on that.
Look at the teeth on it, and look, stinger rig. Maybe 1 or 2 hooks in her.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, she's been fighting. She's been fighting for about 20 minutes. Still got a lot of power left.
Oh yeah.
Go. It's a nice fish. A great grab, Chris.
We'll be right back with more exciting angling on Captain's Tales.
Way to go.
Our last captain is Greg Bogdan. Captain Greg is teasing up the Florida sailfish in the fertile waters off Palm Beach.
30 seconds to the bite. And a great trick is you take the bait and just push on one eye, just push it in a tiny bit and throw it out. And a lot of times the baits will sit on the surface and just swim in a circle. So they don't take off away from the boat as quickly, kind of disorients them. So you just take the bait, give it a little push the eye in a little bit. And they'll sit here at the boat and just swim in circles. And a lot of times it'll bring the fish in really close. Sometimes if you just throw them out, you know, they'll take off and you'll see a sailfish or fish busting on them far away from the boat. So I'll usually throw a couple right here without doing anything, but a lot of them I'll pop that one eye and throw it out there, and it'll keep them close to the boat and bring the fish in closer to you. It's always nice to keep feeding the fish, you know, as you got a fish on, keep throwing chum, especially if you're chumming with dead bait. It's really important to keep the chum slick going. I like to use chunks. I'll cut up sardines or cigar minnows and just constantly throw those, and it brings in all different types of fish, blackfins and kings, and you know, the sails will come up. The sails will even eat the dead bait, so.
Captain Greg is a master at locating and catching fish.
It's coming right up on top. There he is. Sail. We've been catching a lot of sails on these the smaller rods. It's really nice. Small rod, light, easy to handle all day long, and just catching a ton of fish. And my bait was all the way on the bottom there. I mean, literally a foot off the bottom, and the sailfish ate it right off the bottom. The biggest thing with this braid, I've been using a lot of the braid for the king fishing. when you get a sail on, and with the tarpon too, with a lot of fish, this braid's got no stretch. So with a lot of customers, they think that they lose the fish. And what happens is there's no stretch. Like in mono, it'll stretch a little bit like a rubber band. The braid's got no stretch. Sometimes you'll see the fish jumping away from the boat, and he'll bang a 180 and jump back at the boat once, and the rod just comes completely straight. I mean, you would bet everything you have that you lost the fish. And actually, there's just no stretch, so you just got to keep winding like crazy. I tell my people, you don't lose the fish until the hook's back at the tip. And a lot of times, you might wind 40 or 50 feet of line in before you come tight again. With the braid too, when you get the fish close to the boat, you want to almost play him like a tarpon because of no stretch. When the fish is shaking his head with light leader, like right now I'm using 40-pound leader, you might break them off, so you actually want to bow to the fish when they get close and they're jumping to the boat. Not like that. That's where it's very important to bow to them and actually give them the line, because with this spider wire, you know, really not having any stretch, you know, you really got to be able to drop the tip and let them go. Even when they get close to the boat, a lot of times I'll back the drag off a little bit. You can always, especially with the spinners, put a little bit of extra drag on the reel with your finger so you can keep the drag lighter. It's always better to have a looser drag than a tighter drag. And you just apply a little bit, you know, another pound of pressure with your finger as you pump up. And you really don't need it when you're winding down, you're just winding in the slack. So I'll just touch the spool with my finger like that. So I'd rather have the line a little bit looser and just apply the extra pressure with my finger than have it too tight. And you're definitely, when the fish gets up like that, he might get that 40-pound mono around his bill and break you off. They come up and jump a lot more. I think it's just more direct pressure. There he is. Amazing, very strong fish.
Great care must be taken when releasing these fish to ensure survival after a long fight.
If you saw during the fight, there was a little bit of blood coming out of his gills. Fish's blood actually coagulates really quickly in the salt water. I've caught fish that were basically bit in half by kingfish and wahoo, barracudas and stuff, and the fish will actually heal up. So even though a fish is bleeding bad, they got a lot better chance of living in the water than they do in the boat. You know, he's all bronzed out right now, but all that color will come back and swim away just fine. When they're real tired, you just want to drag them nice and slow. Drag them around for a minute, give them a little bit better chance, get some oxygen flowing through their system before you turn them loose. Starts biting me. You see his tail really start kicking, and that fish is ready to go. Good fight. That fish was a really good fighter.
Closed captioning brought to you by Moonlighter Push Poles and Nets. Join us again next week for another episode of Captain's Tales, and try one more fishing spot online. Log on to www.captainstales.com.